experiences with them and trusting them to do little things and trusting them to like come in and actually help. But it was still when I was there rabbit and I'd be laying in the garden in my bikini with the camera. I've never told anyone at News Associates this. I'm sorry guys. I would be, but also like do interview practice with them, because being interviewed is scary, and I think a lot of journalists forget this. I think we forget it is.
Welcome to How to Be a Journalist, a podcast by News Associates. I'm Plamedi Mbungu, and thank you very much for tuning in. I'm a recent university graduate, and I work at News Associates. I'm early in my career, and I need the wisdom from more experienced journalists. So to solve this problem, in every episode I will dive into conversations with some of the most dedicated and talented journalists from all corners of our industry, asking questions about their careers, successes, and giving you a different view of the person behind the byline. Whether you're an aspiring journalist, a seasoned figure in the newsroom, or just interested in knowing what happens behind the scenes, you're in the right place. Today's guest is Sky Sports News assistant producer Alice Reeves-Turner. Alice is a Loughborough graduate who studied English language and literature. During her time at university, she consistently looked for ways to get involved in sports in any way that she could, writing for student magazine WOW and doing an internship with BBC Sport. She also trained at News Associates on the sports journalism course back in 2019. But enough from me, let's hear from Alice herself. Welcome to the How to Be a Journalist podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, my first journalism-related question will be for you. If you cast your mind back, why do you think that you decided to make sports journalism your career? So what I'm trying to ask you is, why did you want to become a journalist in the first place?
Ooh, good question. So there's a number of reasons why I wanted to become a journalist in the first place. And they both go back to when I was very, very, very young. So I am very heavily dyslexic. I couldn't read or write until I was 7 years old, and my parents put in massive amounts of support and help to make sure that I basically could be where I was today. I'm also a swimmer. I have swum competitively since I was about 6 years old. So I've always been obsessed with sport. Sport has always been a massive element of my life. It still is a massive element of my life. I still swim ridiculous amounts. I still swim for a sport club. I still compete. So I wanted sport to be in my life forever. And I was obsessed with reading. I think from the fact that I couldn't read till such a young age, until such a late age, I was absolutely obsessed with it. So that then led me to do an English degree. And I was about a year into my English degree at Loughborough, realised I'd spent most of my time doing sport or watching sport, and thought, I wonder how I could merge these two things. So at first I thought maybe I could go into publishing. God knows how I thought those two things related, but anyhow. And I was speaking to a friend's mum who is a publicist, and she was like, oh, there's this book called The Writers and I think it's The Writers and Publicists Handbook. And she was like, buy that, and then it gives you all the contacts for the whole industry. And so I brought it, and then I just started contacting any sports people or sports-related publications I could. And I was like, yeah, I think I know where I want to go with this. I think I realised that basically I was combining the two things I loved. I was combining sport with writing, reading, language. I'm also a very chatty person. I like finding out things about people. So it kind of was a big compilation of everything that was me, basically.
So would you say that your experience, like even going to such a sports-dominated university at Loughborough, even fed into that even further?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I think going to Loughborough, if I hadn't have gone to Loughborough, I don't think I would be here today. I had a great time at uni. I loved Loughborough. Still have my university ring on. And I still have quite a bit to do with the uni. You've got some of your current students I mentored whilst they were at uni.
Oh, okay. Like, how did that come about, and how did you even volunteer to do that?
So Loughborough is very big on the Loughborough family. The Loughborough family is something that is very much not enforced is the wrong word, but you always know it's there. And when you leave uni, you get these weekly emails from the university, and they like to know what you're getting up to in life. They will often ask people to come back and to give talks, and then they ask you to do mentorship. So I was asked to come back and give a talk for, I think it was the sports industry day that they have, and I got chatting to some people afterwards, and I ended up with a little mentor group of Loughborough students, which has been really lovely because it's meant that I've kept a connection to the university even after leaving. And I've been gone a while now, which is terrifying. I graduated from Loughborough in 2019. It's obviously going into 2025, which makes me feel a lot older than I'd like to feel.
So when you were at uni at Loughborough and
Yes.
you were finding ways to get experience as a journalist, how did you go about doing that?
I'm a massive tryhard, and I'm very proud of this. I think I wouldn't be here today if I wasn't, so I'm not going to pretend that this is a bad thing. But what I did whilst I was at uni, I decided that I was interested in sports journalism. And to start off with, I used my background in swimming. So I was doing some coaching. I have a big shoulder injury that meant that I couldn't swim through uni. I played water polo instead, which I don't really think in retrospect did my shoulder any good, but I enjoyed it. And so I used my swimming contacts. I got into contact with British Swimming, Swim England, Swimming World magazine, and I started writing and doing social media work for all of them. And from there, I then started writing for the uni magazine, and then it kind of just balled from there. I was then getting work experience with BBC, The Telegraph, The Times. I just built myself up such a good back catalogue of experience that when I would approach the next person, they were like, yeah, sure, we'll have you, we'll want you, because I'd put the work in. And there were times, like, I remember I did 2 weeks in Manchester for BBC, and I had to be like to one of my lecturers, I'm really sorry, but can I do this presentation 2 weeks early? And they were obviously like, yes, of course. Like, Loughborough were amazing in helping me and making sure that I got what I wanted. And they were really supportive. Loughborough is a very supportive uni. I'm a big Loughborough fan. So I then went to Manchester for 2 weeks as a student who had no money. I stayed with a family friend, and it was hard. Like, it was hard, but I realised, like, that was the way to get into the industry. It was through experience. It was through making contacts. It was through making sure that I was a known entity and that I didn't turn up to an interview in the future with nothing behind me.
So, like, if you, like, obviously, I completely agree. If you want it, you've got to go and get it for yourself. It's not going to just come for you. So, if you, let's say you had the chance to, you're back at university again and you still want to be a sports journalist and you were looking to get the experience that you need, how would you go about doing that again?
I'd do exactly the same as...
The exact same?
Well, I would do exactly the same as I did in terms of getting as much experience as I possibly could. Mm-hmm. I would tell myself to learn about a bigger variation in sport. So I've talked a lot about swimming so far. I'm a massive swimming nerd. I have spent my weekend watching the World Champs. Was it World Champs? I've just forgotten after claiming to be a swimming nerd. But I have spent my weekend watching swimming and the ridiculous amount of world records be broken. Like, we saw the first man go under 20 seconds in the 50-metre freestyle short course, which is insane. But the world does not care about swimming as much as me and my swim team do. It is a very niche sport. I think my only bit of advice to baby Alice would be keep that work experience up, keep pushing, get as many organisations as you possibly can, but make sure you learn about all sports. Sports journalists can't just be focused, unless it is football, admittedly, you can't just be focused on one sport. You've got to have that big variation. You've got to learn about your F1, your golf, your cricket, and it will make your life easier.
So, like, can I ask you next about the work that you did at the Tokyo Olympics in 2020 as well?
So I worked, Tokyo obviously didn't go ahead because it was COVID.
Yeah, no, of course.
So I had two very interesting sides to things during Tokyo because I was actually working in sports management and PR at that point. So I was managing Adam Peaty, Duncan Scott, Freya Anderson, who were out at Tokyo. They were swimming. So I worked a ridiculous schedule because alongside that I was also freelancing for Eurosport. So I would start work at 8 o'clock in the morning for my normal job. I'd finish at 4. I'd then start work at Eurosport at 5, and then I'd work 5 to 1 a.m. for Eurosport all through the Olympics. It was ridiculous. I don't know how I did it, but it meant I got to see both sides. So I got to be a manager and support my athletes out there, and then I also got to be a journalist alongside it. And at that point, I was still a written journalist. So I was writing articles and I was doing a lot of build-up content because of the shifts I was working. Because I was working 5 to 1, and Tokyo timings, it is obviously reverted. So it was a lot of like, what do we think is going to happen here? Ones to watch today. It was knackering, but it was fun. I loved it. It would have been great to go out there, but obviously Tokyo was not the easiest games to go out and watch.
So what, like, throughout that entire Olympics, and your coverage of it, do you have any highlights that you're like, okay, that was the day that I'm
what's
that
highlight?
was great?
Well, it was as getting to know the athletes personally, it was amazing watching my athletes medal. It was so cool to have someone that you actually know and that you like medal. But I think just all in all, getting to experience it, to get to breathe it in, get to work my first games that I actually, like, for me, the Olympics is like the creme de la creme. Like, it is my favourite sporting event. So to get to work that for the first time very early on in my career was really cool, especially because Tokyo was right off the back of COVID and a time of uncertainty. Paris was interesting this time around because Sky, I'm obviously now employed for Sky full time, and I got to really throw myself into it. We have no rights for Olympic content. We're only allowed to show something like 60 seconds a day on the news, nothing on the web. But to be able to create bespoke content for the Olympics that had to be unique was really cool. And I got to head it, which was amazing from the digital perspective in terms of Sky.
So before you started the sports journalism course, before, you did some work for Team GB.
Yes, I did.
Tell me about that opportunity and how did it even come about?
God, that feels like a very long time ago. So I had done a lot of work with Sportsbeat. Well, not a lot, but a fair bit of work with Sportsbeat before I joined News Associates. So I'd done a week of work experience with them, if not 2. I think it was only 1 though. And I had also done some of the journalism course days that I think you still do.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yes, so I'd got to know Lucy Dyer pretty well, and she emailed me and was like, oh, so Team GB had been in contact, and at the time a guy called Ed was head of the media side of things at Team GB, and he was also a News Associates graduate, and he'd emailed and been like to Lucy, we've got the European Games coming up, do you have anyone you think who is coming into the current cohort or is leaving the current cohort that might be interested? And so they emailed me, and Lucy got in contact and was like, what are you doing this summer? Would you be interested? And I was like, I very much have a policy, and this would be my advice to anyone going to journalism, say yes to everything. If you are offered work experience at the most rogue place, take it. Take it, because it's going to be a life lesson. Obviously, if there are things you're not comfortable with, don't take it. But all in all, if you're comfortable, if you're happy, you are going to learn something. Even if it's pretty minor, you are going to learn something. So I took it. I was with them, I want to say for 3 weeks. I got to go to kitting out, which was insane. They gave me the full GB kit. the most amazing trainers ever that I used up until about 2 years ago, and then I replaced them with the same trainers because I like them. So I still have them now. All because of Team GB. I am an Adidas girly for my trainers.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Just for gym ones, just for gym.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other trainers available.
What are the trainers called?
I can't remember. They're the ones with like the cushions, so but I really like gymming in them.
Yeah.
And I don't run. I'm a swimmer, we don't run. So they're really good to gym in. So I went to Kitting Out, which was so cool. And it's funny because I met boxers at Kitting Out, like Fraser Clark, who obviously we now work with at Sky, and I'm just like, I knew you back in the day when you were a little baby. And then I worked with them through the European Games, and I got to use some different techniques that actually, I would say Team GB's work experience was the closest to my current job. Yeah. And it wasn't obviously a media outlet, it's Team GB. So I worked on some software called, I think it was Snippet, which is very like Wild Mocha, which is what we use at Sky to cut short clips. I created graphics for them. I did anything they asked me to do, and I had a great time. They were a really cool company to work for. And it was great to be able to do something like that before starting at News Associates, and also to know that I had the support of News Associates, the fact that they helped me set that up.
Yeah. It seems like it was like quite a multimedia focused time.
Oh, God, yeah. And it gave me experience that I didn't necessarily get from your bog standard newspaper. This is what I mean about, I think that you should say yes to everything, because journalism isn't just written anymore. Like I said, I don't write day to day. It's I do write, but I write headlines and intros. That's all I write. And so I think it's so important to get a broad range of work experience and to do the most rogue things, to do video editing, to do podcasts, to really get your teeth into multiple different areas of media. We have a whole social media department, and they spend their lives making TikToks and making Instagram posts. Can you imagine that being a thing? Well, so I'm 26. Even 15 years ago, even 10, I can't remember. Well, TikTok wasn't a thing 10 years ago. When I was here at News Associates, TikTok wasn't a thing. And if someone had told me that, like, one of the ways to get into journalism would be to have made little videos of, like, my day, I would have loved that. Yeah. But it wasn't a thing when I was. And so the way to get into journalism, it is changing, and you've got to look at what's around you and progress with it.
Because, like, now you have so many different opportunities to become a journalist before you get in training. Like, literally just go onto your phone, open up TikTok, Instagram, and just start something.
Yeah, that goes back to what I said. I do think this industry is what you make of it. If you put the effort in, if you put the work in, then you will achieve. Yeah. But you've got to be prepared to put that work in.
Yeah, no, for sure. So then, after that time that you spent with Team GB...
Yes, I came here.
Was there a little placement at the Times as well?
Oh, there was. I forgot about that. Oh, this is making me think. Yes, there was. So I did 2 weeks at the Times, which was the best thing about that. And this is quite sweet. I made a friend called Ahmed, and Ahmed... It was eventually on my NCTJ course.
Oh, very nice.
We sat next to each other. So Ahmed and I met on that. And he was working for The Athletic, but I think he's freelance now.
Yeah.
It's worth getting on.
No, definitely. That's somebody to keep in mind.
But no, so the Times was... I'd obviously been in a newsroom. I had seen what the world of journalism was like. But I had not been in News UK, and News UK is very cool. You overlook the Thames. It's a beautiful building. They have a great restaurant too.
Yeah. Like, and how would you compare, like, being in that national, like, newsroom that is basically a household name to other roles that you've had before? And did you get the opportunity to work on a lot of projects while you were there, other than the one you just said?
So by that point, I had been in the BBC newsroom, the Telegraph newsroom, and I think the Times was the third big newsroom that I'd been in. And they're interesting. They are interesting. I'm obviously like, I've become quite used to a newsroom by now. But each place, there's a different environment to the newsroom. BBC I found a lot quieter. Sky is quite loud. We get told off occasionally for being too loud and the cameras pick it up. Because obviously within Sky you have the studio being filmed with the journos in the background. So you will sometimes see me walking backwards and forwards. Mm-hmm. Don't look out for it. But I think every newsroom is different. I think I was very lucky very early on in my career to get to experience a newsroom, which meant that I was kind of like, I got over the fear. I knew what that I was going to be in. I knew the way that they worked. I really enjoyed my time with the Times. I think that when you're in these early stages of your career, you're kind of just there to soak everything up. You're not trusted. Like, you are there to watch. And I think journalists have become better at having work experiences with them and trusting them to do little things and trusting them to, like, come in and actually help. But it was still, when I was there, it was still at the phase where it was like, you can watch me. You can watch me interview this person. Which was incredible. At 18, 19, well, no, I was older than that. I was 20. At 20, 21, that was so cool because I was getting to watch people do what I wanted to do. And then I was getting to breathe it in, which I loved. Yeah. But I would say the Times was the first time in a national newsroom, because I've done my own research for British Swimming, Swimming World, all that jazz. But the Times was the first time that I got to really like research, get my teeth into something, which I did with the transgender policy, which has become very useful in my life now because it's a topic that's often discussed. Yeah,
like getting the opportunity to work on such an important story.
And it's also meet some really cool people, like meet journalists who can give you advice and can talk to you about what their advice would be. Because going into these work experiences, it is about learning about, it is about getting a byline and it is about getting those experiences, but it's also about talking to people. It's getting your name known. It's about making sure that when your name comes up in for an interview, someone's going to be like, oh, yeah, they came in. I liked them. They were good. They were funny. They would be a good member of our team. We all underestimate just how small the world is.
Yeah.
And it is like you said, everybody, well, not everybody knows everyone, but I feel like I've gone through life going into different places where you're always one connection away. Journalism, everyone's quite closely linked. You're always going to have that one connection away. Loughborough is the same. Swimming is the same. They're all quite close-knit communities. And it's all about getting to know people. It's not, I wouldn't say it's who you know these days. I'm the perfect example of it's not who you know. My mother is a nurse and my father works for the prison service. Neither of them have journalism collections. But it's about getting your name known.
Yeah, for sure. So now we'll talk about your time here at News Associates.
Yes.
On the sports journalism course. How was that experience?
It was quite weird because I was the COVID year. Yeah. So I was in a class, there was 24 of us, there was 3 girls, and then there was 21 boys. There was a lot of men. And I am still great friends with about 6 of them. We have a little group chat. We still meet up. You obviously had Sam Blitz on this podcast a few weeks ago, who I now put up with at Sky as well as a friend.
Can't get rid of him.
I cannot get rid of him. But I had a great time. I learnt a lot. It was hard work. Like, it was really hard work. I did not enjoy shorthand. I use it to write shopping lists now. I don't use it day to day.
Fair enough.
Sorry, News Associates.
That actually puts me in a comfortable position because I've only got like 50 words.
I got 80 and then I was like, I can't do it anymore. It's horrible. So it was tough. It was tough. I really struggled with shorthand. Dyslexia and shorthand do not mix. But I had a great time. I had a great group of boys. on my course. I really got to learn, and it was a nice transition, I think, between uni and adulthood. And then COVID hit.
And then COVID hit.
And then we went into... So News Associates, I believe you still do it.
Yeah.
You do February work experience. Mm-hmm. So I'd been off for 3 weeks. I'd gone and done 2 weeks of work experience at Sky Sports. Off the back of, I had a mentor called Josh Hayward, who is still at Sky, and he's still a great friend. So I did 2 weeks of work experience at Sky, a week of work experience with the Telegraph at the time had the women's sports desk, so I went and worked with them for a while, for a week, and then we came back and it was all brewing. Brewing, and it was like, I remember we did an afternoon, I think it was Kempton races was on, and we were all watching Kempton races, and there was talk of like this super disease going round, and we were like, oh, should people be at Kempton? And then obviously everyone got we all know what happened with COVID. We all went into lockdown.
For sure.
So I finished my course remotely. We did our exams over this software that we were told would track our eye movement, and we were like, oh, this is terrifying. And then I did every week, I did a quiz with the boys. So we did quizzes that involved like one of the boys, I think it was Harry Jones, who now works for the Mail, made us do a quiz where we all had to take a photo of the inside of our fridge. Yeah. And we had to guess whose fridge was whose. Like, it was a real low point in lockdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I finished my News Associates course in a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Like, obviously you just said, like, it was a little bit difficult trying to get jobs around that time.
Oh, it was really difficult. So
you worked something out, didn't you?
Yeah, so when we went into lockdown, it was at that period of time when everyone at News Associates is applying for grad schemes, and like the big ones to apply for, the Mail, the Sky Sports one, I think the Indie do one, the Times do one. So we went into lockdown. I think it was 2 days before lockdown, I did an interview for the grad scheme at Sky Sports. Like, I did it on the floor below here, like tucked myself in the corner, did my little phone interview, and then 2 days later we went into lockdown. And that happened with all grad schemes just stopped. Everywhere stopped employing. And it was a really difficult time, because imagine you have I'd worked so hard. I had worked so hard through uni to build up a portfolio and make these contacts and make sure I was employable, because this was my dream. I wanted to go into journalism. And then the global pandemic hit and all jobs stopped. And there was a lot of my friends in the same position. We just could not get jobs. And so I literally started emailing anyone I could think of. Like, anyone.
Yeah.
I emailed British Swimming, I emailed Team GB, I got very nice emails back being like, we're really sorry, but there's no work. And then towards September sort of time, so I'd been finished with News Associates. Actually, it might have even been earlier. Because I remember talking about the job with Emily Cody Stemp, who used to work here. I don't think she does anymore. She now is at BBC Surrey. I remember talking to her about the job. I started emailing anyone that I possibly could. And as I've mentioned many times before, I am a big swimming nerd. And at the time, there was a competition called the International Swim League. And the International Swim League was like nothing swimming had ever seen before. It was super cool. There was loads of different teams, but they were bringing together like these big swimmers, like Adam Peaty, Duncan Scott, Kira Toussaint, the Aussies, the Americans. They were bringing together these big swimmers and putting them in teams and competing against each other. And it wasn't based off country. It was literally like there was a draft and people got pulled in, and it was great. So I, on a whim, contacted London Raw, who is the UK-based team. Like I said, it doesn't have only UK swimmers. It had a lot of Australians, a lot of European swimmers, a few Americans, and a fair few British. Like, the majority of the team was Brits and Australians. So I contacted them and was like, hello, I'm looking for a job. Please, can I have a job? Basically. More professional, but along those lines.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, I got a phone call one day and it was like, hi, is that Alice? And I was like, yeah. And it was a company called TLA UK who managed London Raw. They are London Raw. And they offered me a job running the socials for London Raw, but also working for them in terms of social media, sports management, and a bit of PR. So I went and worked for them for 18 months, which was great at building up a different set of skills that I don't think I would have got if I'd gone straight into journalism. I also think it made me build up a contact base that I didn't necessarily have, which I think is very helpful. And I do think if you're looking at journalism, don't just look at journalism, look at other jobs, look at PR, look at sports management, look at social media, because this industry is massive. And even if you could be a social media journalist, like, journalism isn't the traditional route anymore, and you might not necessarily actually want to work in journalism. You might want to work with athletes.
Yeah. And I read that you actually had the opportunity to go abroad.
I went to Budapest for 6 weeks. Middle of lockdown, it was very weird. So it was for the ISL, the International Swim League. So I went out to Budapest for 6 weeks to do all the social media and all the comms and stuff like that, and set up interviews. So I flew out on a BA flight on Margaret's Island. So we were on a hotel there and we weren't allowed to leave the island. So I just walked up to 5 kilometres around this island every single day. So we were allowed to go there or to the Duna Arena, which is the pool in Budapest, very fast pool. I got to literally live out this competition from start to finish. I got to live the crazy world of ISL. And then whilst we were out there, the UK went down into full lockdown again. But yes, I was in Budapest for 6 weeks during lockdown.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It was really cool.
Like, even this job, like, obviously your title was, and correct me if I'm wrong, account manager and PRs?
Yeah, so I was an account manager, PR assistant, and social media manager. Like, it was a word.
Long
I was doing like
title.
3 people's jobs. It was lockdown. We were all doing whatever we could.
Yeah, for sure. And like, was that the reason why you were able to like build like proper relationship with these athletes? Like,
well, I was working with them every single day. Like, my job involved like helping them manage interviews, helping set up interviews for them, but also like do interview practice with them, because being interviewed is scary, and I think a lot of journalists forget this. I think we forget. It is quite terrifying having a random stranger you've never met before sit down and grill you. And you don't know if you can trust them. Like, you don't know what's going to come out of that interview. Like, you come away and you're like, oh, did I do that right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
And it is, like, being an athlete and being interviewed is hard. Mm-hmm. And as a working in management, there was a lot of stuff, and working in PR, there was a lot of stuff that involved like supporting athletes in interviews, making sure that they weren't being asked questions that they didn't want to answer. And I think you need to remember that as a journalist. A lot of the time, there are managers of athletes who are rubbish. Like, there are people in every walk of life, every job that are rubbish. But a lot of the time, the reason a athlete's management is doing what they're doing is because the athlete has asked them to. They have asked that they don't want. They've told their management that they don't want to talk about a particular topic.
Yeah, that's interesting to say, because obviously, like, in the talk with the sports journalism course, you kind of alluded to it, and I think I caught just the end of that, where like you obviously have been on both sides.
Yeah, I have, and it is very interesting. It is very interesting to have been on both sides, and it does make you more empathetic, I think. And I think it also makes you realise that athletes are human. I was very lucky to have come from the swimming background and coming from my own sporting background. I knew athletes, and I knew they were human. But actually seeing like an athlete be worried about what they said in an interview, or be worried about what the result of an interview was going to be, or be really upset by what an organisation had written about them, it does make you, like, I would love to think that I'm never going to write or produce something that would hurt someone, and touch wood, I never have. But it was amazing to see that some people just forgot that athletes are humans who have feelings, and guessing that story is actually going to do damage?
Yeah.
And is it sometimes necessary?
Because sometimes you see all these clips on social media of journalists prodding away at athletes trying to get that big clip.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It is.
Obviously.
It's ethics.
Yeah.
It's ethics.
It's a journalism ethics session which can go on forever.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'd like to segue into your time at Sky. So
My current time.
your current time at Sky. So you started off as a junior assistant producer.
Yeah, so I started off as a junior assistant producer in the digital video team. So I actually interviewed for a few jobs at Sky before I got my job.
Yeah.
I interviewed as a runner, and I interviewed for a job for Football Daily. And then I interviewed for my job, and I eventually got it.
Yeah.
Well, my old job. I've recently been promoted.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. So, yeah, I am still part of the digital video team.
Okay. So when you first started off and you were a junior assistant producer,
Yes.
like how was that experience? What was your day-to-day back then?
Ooh, so my day-to-day hasn't dramatically changed that much from promotion. So I can talk as if I am now. Obviously, my responsibilities have gone up now. My workload is a bit higher, but my day-to-day in my role is completely different every single day. Mm-hmm. So we have a real variation of shifts. So we have our basic Sky Sports shifts, where you do a Sky Sports News late, early, mid. So mid's 10-6, the early is 6 a.m. till 2 p.m, the late is 4 p.m. till midnight. Then alongside that, we also have our sports shifts. So your live sport, where you're cutting highlights, you're creating clips, which cover such a broad range of sport. Any sport that Sky does, I will cover it at some point, which can be quite weird because, say, I did an EFL shift last weekend and I hadn't covered EFL properly in about a year. Yeah. I think I'd done one smaller shift, but I hadn't done a proper EFL shift in a long time. So sometimes you're coming back to things and you're like, ooh, this is a bit of a shock to the system. And then on top of that, we also have something called feature shifts, where you can do your own projects. And for some people, that's creating more football videos. For me, sometimes I create F1 content, but the majority of my feature days are built on making bespoke content or coming up with ideas for bespoke content. I think we're going to talk about it in a second, but Real Talk was worked on primarily on my feature days. And it's great because it means that I can have a complete diverse... I can focus on what I want to focus on. I can create ideas. I can get my teeth into things that I am passionate about. And yeah, I love my job. I really, really love my job. It's hard work, but I love it.
So obviously that's a fantastic segue to the next question.
Yes.
Let's talk Real Talk. And you're obviously on the creative team for it.
Yes.
So how did it come about, and tell me more about your role?
Oof. So I could talk about Real Talk for a long time. I often do. So Real Talk is the product of a brainstorming session that happened within Women at Sky digital and social section. So we went in and we had a brainstorming session, and I came away from it and I was like, I don't want this to die in this session. I want to do something with this. So I pulled together a pitch. I am alongside one of my colleagues, Claire, and we then pitched this idea, which was originally called something slightly different, to some big bosses. And then we got the go-ahead and we pitched it to a team at Sky called the Bespoke Team. From where we then began to build Real Talk. And for those that haven't listened or seen Real Talk, for one, go listen to it. But the idea of Real Talk is that we were discussing topics that weren't talked about in the mainstream sporting sporting media. So within Series 1, we covered OCD, pelvic floor, exercise safety, motherhood, retirement and grief. And that's all we talked to the athletes about. We didn't want to touch briefly on a subject. We wanted to really get our teeth into it and really wanted to talk about it with them. And I think it turned into a really good series. We we went out across linear, digital, social, and it was also a podcast. And the podcast is slightly different to everything else because we got experts involved. So say for the OCD section, the OCD episode, we got a OCD expert called Lynn Drummond to come in, and what her and Mim, the presenter for Real Talk, did was listen back to the content that we had collected from the athletes and reflect back on it and learn further from it, which I've not seen something like it before.
Yeah, like obviously it's been very successful. Would you like to tell the listeners about what it recently just won?
So we have recently won the Broadcast Sports Podcast of the Year. We have also been nominated for 2 categories within Podcast of the Year awards. Go vote for Real Talk. So yeah, it's doing well. It's doing well, which is ridiculous. Like in my mind, I've always been so proud of it, and it has been great. But it has been great to see others appreciate what it is and appreciate the stories we're telling.
Yeah, for sure. Because obviously there are stories that, as you guys say, that go unnoticed in the media, and obviously you guys shed a light on them. So
yeah,
credit where credit's due.
There's a great team involved with Real Talk. Everyone works so hard, and it is a very time-consuming project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the fact that you just said that it's a time-consuming project, like from the outside looking in journalism, just having your own journalism, full stop, seems like it can take up every single segment of your life. So like, how do you keep a decent work-life balance? If you do, and I hope you do.
It can be tough. So I work shifts. So say tomorrow I'm on a late shift, so I don't start work till 4 p.m. Nobody is around on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Except for I'm actually seeing someone tomorrow. I'm seeing my friend Seren, who also did a news associates course and works for the Times. And Seren, as another journalist, is off on a rogue Wednesday. Shift work is hard. I was quite lucky that I came into it. My parents have both always worked shift work. I worked shift work in my Saturday, well, it's not my summer job growing up. So I was used to it. It is hard not having every weekend off. Sometimes you miss out on things, but I'm a massive planner. I love planning. So I will plan weeks and months in advance to make sure that I can attend things. Or like one of my best friends texted me yesterday and was like, I'm thinking that my wedding is going... I'm at the age where people are getting married. Very weird. But my friend texted me and was like, we're thinking of having our wedding on the 20th of December next year. Can you do that? And she's given me enough notice. And you don't need to give a year's notice. It's obviously now I can put it in my diary and be like, right, I've got this on this date, so I have got to be off. I do find in some regards working shifts actually means you have a better work-life balance. You can do so much more having a Monday and Tuesday off than you can a Saturday and Sunday. My boss, Croz, is also amazing that if you request a shift, he will make every effort to make sure that you are on it. So say I needed to be free on a Wednesday evening. If I told him, he would make every effort to make sure I was free. I'm quite lucky that I swim still because that is my main social life, and swimming is at ridiculous times in the morning.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of my life balance area, because it's very rare that I miss a training session because I make sure that I can, like, my shifts are around it, or if I miss a session, I pick up a different session. So I've rambled a lot there, but I really think you achieve work-life balance if you put the effort to achieve work-life balance. It's hard. It is hard work, but if you make the effort to find a hobby that fits around, or if you find something that allows you to see your friends and you plan, it is easier. Sometimes you make mistakes and you're suddenly like, oh, I can't go to this because I've got work. But sometimes it's a great excuse as well. Sometimes when you don't want to go to something and you can be like, oh, sorry, I've got work. Yeah. Wonderful.
It does absolutely work wonders.
Yeah, don't tell your friends though.
No, I will cut this out. And, like, the amount of times I've just, to be fair, for the most part, I am usually at work. So
Yeah, we
where
are.
is that?
We are at work.
We are at work.
But occasionally you're tired and you just want a night in with your pajamas.
For sure.
No, but I think work-life balance in journalism is easy to achieve if you are willing to plan and you're willing to make the effort to make it work. It's as soon as you are just like, oh, I've got no time, I'm always at work, then you're not going to achieve it. Because then you are just always at work. And also you do sometimes have to say no and go home.
Yeah, I mean, there is that.
Yeah, sometimes you do just need to go home. Like, you can pick something up tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So, and with that, I think we have a decent understanding into why your career has got to the point where it's at right now. Like, we've heard so many amazing stories about, obviously, ways you've got experience and the amazing stuff that you've done in your current role at Sky Sports. But now, it's time to get into the questions that really matter. I'm building up suspense. Okay. All right. The first one of the Fast and Furious round, but take as much time as you want. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Extrovert. I think this podcast is going to wake up an extrovert. I was actually talking to one of my friends about this the other day, and he is quite introverted, and he was like, you sometimes just need to shut up. And I was like, so mean. He is still my friend.
Yeah. As we were talking, as I was even just asking that question, I was like, I have a feeling I know the answer.
Yeah, it's quite an obvious one. I like people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you a night owl or an early riser?
I'm forced to be an early riser. I chose a sport that means that I have to get up very early, but I also will quite often get home from training and go back to sleep. so I'm naturally very good at staying up late, but I can't. So we're gonna have to go early riser.
Okay. If you haven't interviewed them already, who would be your dream interview? And it can be anyone. First person that comes to mind.
Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
He would be a good interview.
Definitely.
I just think there's so many different areas to him that I'd like to look into.
Yeah. So let's say after you're done wrapping up the How to Be a Journalist podcast, and then you have an interview with Lewis Hamilton after this.
Yes.
What song are you listening to prepare yourself for that interview?
Well, I'm just a girl, so a bit of Taylor Swift.
Yeah? Okay,
I'm just a girl.
That makes
sense. No, my Spotify Wrapped is typical girly bops. Taylor Swift, Chappell Roan,
Nice.
Sabrina Carpenter. I love a bit of Olivia Dean.
Yeah.
Love a bit of Gracie Abrams at the moment. Benson Boone.
Yeah. What was your number one song on your Spotify rap? And try be honest.
I think it was actually I do know what it was because it was a bit of a rogue one. So it was Katie Baser, Do You Want to Go to Bed With Me? And it's because I listened to it at the gym on repeat. Yeah. And it's got a really good beat to it. And so when I'm like mid squat set, it's a great song.
Yeah.
My Spotify Wrapped is slightly skewed by my gym music. I have like my day-to-day like Taylor Swift, like I said, my girly bops. And then I have my gym playlist or my like pre-race playlist, which is like Stormzy.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like mine is very much skewed by my running songs or the music that I listen to go to sleep.
Ooh, yes. Are you like a whale noise person?
See, oh no, like I'm very much like electronic music, but like
no, that's weird.
I know
that's really weird.
It is. I can't like.
I'll tell you what I've got really into to get me to sleep. This is very weird.
Okay.
ASMR facials.
ASMR facials
on TikTok. Like if I'll be like falling asleep and then I find this ASMR TikTok facial, and it will be like someone like you can hear like the bubbles popping on someone's face.
Yeah. Like
you said yours is. I said yours is weird, and then I've just come up with something worse.
It's one of those ones where like, especially in this last Fast and Furious section, whenever somebody says like an answer like that, I always try it. So
yeah, go listen to ASMR facials on TikTok before bed.
I'll give it a go. Like it does sound strange, but I like to keep my minds open. So okay, so the next one is following up on the music sort of vibe. Favorite concert you've ever been to?
Okay, there's two.
Okay.
Adele.
Oh, very nice.
Amazing. And Taylor Swift, the Eras tour.
Oh, okay.
I got the tickets. So I tried to get tickets in the first cohort, obviously didn't. Signed up and then didn't. I got the email. I think it was her last round. It was her last round in London. So she performed in London the first time. I didn't get any tickets. Like, didn't get an email, and I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
And then the second time round, I got the email, and she did her first performance, and there was still no tickets on sale. And I was like sat awake, and I was like, "There's going to be a ticket drop at midnight," and I was like, "I can feel it. I can feel there's going to be a ticket drop."
Yeah.
And I waited until midnight, like refreshing the page, and then a load of tickets dropped in, and I immediately brought 4, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
Like, I've heard such good things about that tour. So many.
It was so good.
went.
Like, so I went with 2 friends, and I took my mum for her 60th birthday present.
Oh, that's very nice.
And my mum loves Taylor Swift, but she's like a mum, you know? Well, she is a mum. She's very mum.
Yeah.
Such a mum. She's got 2 children. But she loves Taylor, but she's like, she listens to her she's hoovering. She's not like following her life. Like, I had to explain the whole like Kanye West Taylor Swift beef to her on the way to the concert.
Yeah.
And she is like, this is one of the best things I ever saw. It was like going to see a stage show.
Yeah. Okay. So, next one is, which TV show are you currently watching?
Black Dove.
I haven't heard of it. Okay, tell me more
it's
about
on
it.
Netflix. It's got Keira Knightley.
The new one that came
The
out recently.
new one, yeah. So I won't do any spoilers because it is new.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah?
Very good. A lot of people die in it though.
Oh,
So.
okay. I am very, very intrigued by it. And when people recommend TV shows, like, I
that's
watch
good.
them. Like, some of the Kamel Jaffa from he also went here at the Daily Mail.
Mm-hmm.
He recommended Industry, so I was like, okay, I'll watch Industry.
Tell you what I also watched recently, which is a bit more risque, but it's quite good. Rivals on Disney Plus.
Rivals on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
What was it about?
Rivals is about a TV multi-billionaire who hires a BBC journalist.
Oh.
And it's set in the 80s or the 70s. Very good.
Yeah, I like stuff that involves, like, you know, journalists and journalism.
But
so.
it's I can't remember the name of the author of the books from, but it's a very Mills and Booney. Like,
Oh, okay.
but I
Okay.
enjoyed it.
Okay. Fair enough. Favorite holiday destination?
So I love travelling. I'm quite a big traveller. I got back from Japan a few months ago,
Very nice.
which was epic. Would recommend Japan. Vietnam's good. Thailand, Singapore. You can't go wrong with Italy.
Oh, Italy's fantastic.
That's such a difficult question. I love travelling. I just think everyone should travel if they can
Yeah,
and if they want to.
no,
But
for sure.
I can't answer that.
Oh,
There's too many questions.
What was the first thing that came up in your
Japan.
So,
The
okay.
food is amazing. The culture is completely different to anything else I'd ever seen before. It's worth a trip.
Yeah.
You will spend far too much money though.
Oh,
And
okay.
you can get some really good trainers out there.
Yeah. And then favorite movie? If I had to press you and say.
No, you don't have to press me, I know what it is.
Oh, you know it. Okay, nice.
Pride and Prejudice 2005.
Is that the one with Keira Knightley?
Yeah, it is. It's like my happy film.
Yeah.
And like, I did an English degree. This is the English degree girl in me coming through.
Mm-hmm.
I love Pride and Prejudice, the book, and Keira Knightley, and I think it's it's not Matthew McConaughey, it's Matthew something.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just, in my eyes, they are Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
But yeah, great film. It's like my comfort film.
Okay, fair play.
Or I like Billy Elliot as well.
But yeah, it's good. I like the Pride and Prejudice as well. Both of them are good films. I watched both of them in English back in school ages ago.
Yeah, this is why people have normally watched them, like in school. When and then I'm like, no, I would watch that randomly day to day.
Yeah.
It never gets old.
And then final question. One word to describe your career as of right now. First thing to come up in your mind.
Ooh, that's really difficult. Growing.
Growing. Okay, with that, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast, Alice.
Thank you for having me.
Great conversation, and hopefully that the listeners learn a lot from that, which I assume they have. So, I've been Plamedi Mbungu, and this has been How to Be a Journalist.